The most important thing in human communication is hearing what is not said. Nonverbal communication, very important, perhaps more important than what we say with our mouths. But is it universal? In this presentation, we are going to be looking at the effects of eye contact, the distance between which we space ourselves, gesture and touch, and see if it is similar across cultures. The first one we'll look at, of course, is eye contact. The eyes are the windows of the soul. But through those windows is the same message always reflected. Let us examine eye contact first. Were your eyes drawn to the images of the eyes on your screen? That's not surprising because neurologically we are hardwired to respond to all eyes, even images of eyes, like this reptile who is responding to a plastic reptile and its hard stare. Eye contact communicates instinctively in humans and seems to be universal. However, there are cultural differences too. Not only winking, but also staring is very rude in collectivist cultures, but staring is a sign of strength in individualist cultures, as long as it doesn't go on for too long, in which case it becomes creepy. Sapolsky reports that when there is an image of an eye on a poster in a bus shelter, people will actually litter less, and when researchers go and drop wallets, those people are more likely, I guess because they feel subconsciously that they are being watched, to return the wallet properly. This should give us school teachers an idea about images of eyes in the classroom, which might make our children less messy and more honest. This effect, of course, is more pronounced in collectivist cultures because people are more likely to feel ashamed by what others see them do. In individualist cultures, people tend to feel ashamed inside, as in, oh, I cannot live with myself. Personal space. The second type of nonverbal communication we'll look at, and it's changed a lot in 2021 and has a new meaning. I don't know about you, but I thought at first studying and working from home would be great, but I only found it to be rather isolating. So the personal space is new now and strange. But originally, it meant how far apart people stand away from each other comfortably. There are zones for intimate relationships, for acquaintances, and for strangers. Personal space varies individually, and is generally most important in individualist cultures, such as the United States, as exemplified by Will Smith, and by the man who wants a big bubble around him. Culture clash occurs when collectivist cultures, which are used to smaller personal space, crowd those oriented towards individualism. This happens to me when I ride those colectivo buses in Guatemala, and I feel like people are way too close. But what do I mean when I say collectivist cultures and individualist cultures? This goes back to the Vito text, which we are studying. Remember, we have only covered chapter 1 together, and we are now going to pull out pieces that we would like to highlight for our presentations. Here in chapter 2, under cultural differences, there are 4 major axes on which cultures are measured, and I will only be looking at the first one, individual and collective orientations. You can feel free to take any of the other cultural differences and work with them in your own presentations. Also looking at one which does not occur in the text, but which you can research, which is the cultures of honor. Cultures of honor have given us the great monotheistic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They have given us chivalry to women, great hospitality to strangers, but also, on the negative side, honor killing. And these are feasts of children and girls and women who have been murdered by their families in the last few years due to this particular cultural phenomenon of honor killing. So feel free to investigate any of the other cultural axes listed in Chapter 3 for your own presentations. For myself, I will be looking at individualist culture versus collectivist culture. Individuals are, in individualist cultures like the US, self-sufficient, unique, autonomous, and independent. And of course, I have Beyonce down there because all the single ladies, individualists, are much less likely to be married. Traits of collectivist culture are, well, to have better relationships, they focus more on social rules, they work together in groups better, they do what's better for society instead of for themselves. Families and communities have a bigger role. Collectivist cultures feel that the opinions are formed by the group, whereas individualist cultures feel that they should have their own opinions and they have more rights, right? People in individualist cultures are more self-aware and more independent, but in collective cultures, we look more at mutual relationships and ties. It makes a very big difference in parenting. Individualist parents talk louder, talk more, play their music louder, give their children unusual names, encourage children to sleep alone in their rooms, reward initiative, and are more likely to be divorced. When shown a picture of a group of fish with one in the front, individualist mother is more likely to tell her child, the fish in the front is the leader. Collectivist parents are more likely to sleep with their children longer, give traditional baby names according to culture, reward quiet interaction, reward cooperation, spend more time with children without talking. They are more likely to stay married to their partners. When they explain the same picture of fish to their children, they say the fish in front must have done something bad because his friends don't want to play with him. Here's a quick and easy way to check if you belong to a more collectivist or individualist orientation. Just try this simple, easy test. Which two belong together? Monkey, bear, banana. Individualists pair the monkey and the bear because those are both animals. Collectivists will pair the monkey with the banana since the monkey needs something to eat, and collectivists look more at relationships. This little map shows the yellow individualist cultures of the world contrasted with the red, which shows more collectivist cultures. Notice that the United States and Australia are very high in individualism, which makes sense because these places were more recently settled by cranks, criminals, religious wingnuts, and immigrants who chose to seek their fortunes. Yes, my ancestors. But there also does seem to be an interesting genetic component associated with dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that lets us feel satisfaction and reward. There are 7 varieties of human dopamine receptors, and the R7 variety is associated more with risk-taking and problems with following rules. In ancient times, all 7 of these alleles were apparently mixed as humans moved out of Africa and into Europe and Asia. Rice planting countries where collectivism is strong have almost no R7 individuals. R7 predominance and rice planting can be put together on a map, and they fit together perfectly, so you can really see it. A Yale study showed, when studying these receptors in human populations worldwide, that around the bottom are all the rice-growing countries like China, Cambodia, Japan, and Laos. And those ones almost have no R7 receptors. However, their closer relatives in Polynesia have much higher numbers of R7 receptors. Those are the people who left Asia in ancient times and explored and settled in Polynesia. For example, Moana, surely she was an R7 individual out exploring the world. There are some people that left from Asia and went much, much farther also. The ones who crossed the Bering Land Strait into North and finally all the way into South America. Interestingly, those people show even higher levels of R7 individuals. The Maya have 4 times more R7 individuals, than the populations which were left in Asia, their ancient ancestors. Going even farther south into the Amazon basin, you have the isolated groups that have the highest numbers of R7 in the world. And those are the people of the Amazon basin, with up to 7 times more. Perhaps in prehistory, those more genetically disposed to individualism simply left the others behind, creating intensively collectivist cultures, which also have the world's lowest incidence of the allele. However, culture always trumps, and even if there's a genetic component, culture is a force unto itself, shown by the fact that when Asians emigrate to the United States and become acculturated and change to fit in, they are more likely to get divorced, more likely to patent an invention, and more likely to give their children novel names, meaning the individualism will sink in. So I thought that was interesting. The third one that we look at is nonverbal communication, and that would be gesture, as exemplified by these Maori who are welcoming. Many of the nonverbal gestures communicate universally, but some are culture specific. Watch the following and tell me which one is the universal and which particular one varies strongly by culture. Looking at all of them, did you notice the one that is not universal? It's that sign. In Japan, it means money. In Argentina, and for the French, it means 0 or nothing. And in Eastern Europe, well, it means the same as this one. So be careful. Number 4, touch. Once again, be careful. In France, it is acceptable to kiss strangers, often on both cheeks. Also, apparently, in Hollywood. But in most places, you can't go around kissing people, even when there isn't a pandemic. Also, touching children on the head is fine in North America. I think it's fine in Belize. They're so cute, I just touch them on the head. Yet in Asia, this is considered inappropriate. The head is considered a sacred part of the body. In the Middle East, the left hand is customarily used to handle bodily hygiene. All the things below the waist, left hand. All the things above the waist, like eating, right hand. Therefore, using that hand to accept a gift or to shake hands is considered extremely rude. So, watch out for all those weird cultural differences, folks. And thanks for watching the presentation.